Hey, my name's Jonathan Toshnik. The question is, what do you think the most important attribute is when you're hiring employees? And I think at the end of the day, everything goes back to the person themselves. So, in one respect, you're looking for somebody that has a certain level of skills that can do certain things on the job in the field. So, we might be talking about laborers that are working out in the field or technicians. We might also be talking about office personnel. So, let me talk about a couple different things. This first one, though, I think covers all employee types. So, my preference is to hire somebody I feel like is a good quality person at the end of the that's them, their makeup as a individual, as a human being, is a good quality, trustworthy, honest individual. If we get a vibe that we're not quite sure about this person, there's just an uneasy feeling, we do not hire them, because I think this is, at the end of the day, the most important thing. It's like getting married or picking a business partner. If you don't feel like you can trust them, you don't want them as part of your team. You don't want to spend the rest of your life with them. And if you don't get the vibe that they really are completely honest, they're not going to be honest to you, they're not going to be honest to your customers. If you just question anything about them in terms of their makeup and their honesty and their trustworthiness, their upfrontness, if you get that odd feeling, I recommend walking. I really strongly recommend it. A mishire is very, very costly, and it's very painful, and it leads to bad decisions downstream. And so at the end of the day, your job, number one, is to hire quality people, even if they're short on skills. And what I mean by that, if we have come to believe that we are better off hiring some individuals that we truly believe we can trust, that really seem to have a heart that where they care for our clients, they really want to do good work at their core. And that's really needs to be pointed out, because there are a lot of people at the end of the day aren't too terribly worried about doing their best and doing their best for the client. And then you've got this next level of people that they'll do their very best for a client when they actually have to have communication, talk on the phone, see the client, have some kind of in-person communication. Whereas if they're performing a job and that in a function and that doesn't involve directly interfacing with the client, and that could be somebody in your office environment, or it could be somebody out mowing a lawn that doesn't actually ever have to see a client and talk to them. Where I'm going with this is there's a personality type that, regardless of whether or not they'll ever come into contact with the client, they still care. They have a personal work ethic and they want good quality. And then there's the other type of person that they do their best work only with the clients that they're going to have to talk to, and the rest, because they'll never have to see them and they can't be confronted, lower quality work. All very, very hard to pick up when you are hiring an individual. But this goes back to the heart of the individual. Are you catching any vibes? Are you getting any feelings about this person? Is there anything that's uneasy? If so, walk. Get somebody else, because my experience is most of the time your gut feeling's correct and you're going to end up hiring somebody that does not build your team. Now, I realize there's times of desperation where you've just got to get some people. Then you need to work on upgrading. One thing that it's very easy to miss when you're building your organization is that one person, say you have 7 people in your company, one person that you hire that has a bad attitude, that's negative, that doesn't really care for your clients. And what I mean by that is they won't go over and above for them, that complains, that's whatever the negative attributes you can think of. One bad person will poison your entire environment. And so one of the important things is to build a culture in your business. And that's is even for technicians out in the field, but it's building an attitude. What's the heart of your company? Do we really care about our clients? Are we really going to do whatever we have to do to serve them, to make them happy? If they have a building problem, will we fix it immediately, or are we going to let it sit there? If somebody calls in and they're mad, how do we handle it? Are we all scared to take the phone call? Or are we going to jump on the phone call and we're going to do everything we need to do to calm them down? If we're a laborer and we're out in the field, how do we treat our clients? Do we make eye contact with them? If we're entering their homes, do we put something on our tennis shoes as we go into the home and show courtesy? What is the heart of our business? You're building a team here. If you hire one of 7 people and they do not fit, they will drag down the other 6. One person in 7 can poison all 7. I guarantee it. I've seen it over and over again. A company will be successful because of the people. This is such a great question because this is the core component to building a company. Your company, you can only go so far as just you. And that's why so few companies ever make it to $1 million. You can be awesome. Your clients can love you. But that's wonderful if all you want to do is make a certain amount of money the rest of your life and not be able to take vacations and do all those other things. So it's incumbent upon you to start building a group of people around you as a backup plan. What if you're ever in an accident in your truck and you can't work for a month? Your whole business could be over. What happens? So you got to build this team around you. The team you build around you is now your representation of you to your client. So do you want to hire somebody that you don't completely trust when you hire them? Because you've just let poison into your operation. And now that's what your clients are going to think of you because that individual reflects you. That individual will talk to your other employees. That individual will say things to your other employees you don't want said that aren't real. That other employees will put thoughts in people's heads. It is very hard, but it's critical to hire and build a great team because if you build a great team around you, they will build you. A lot of the very, very successful people, the reason they're successful, and this is much harder than it sounds, the reason they're successful is not because they were geniuses, not because they were great businessmen, and they were maybe at some level. They built great teams around them. Some of them were fortunate enough that when they made their first initial hires, those people were awesome, and they hired people like themselves. So maybe I went off in a direction. I haven't completely given you the attributes, but this is one that deserves massive focus because you've got to hire quality. And even if they're not in your office, they represent you. They represent your company. They're your name. If somebody gets a bad feeling about them, they fire you. Then they tell somebody else. So your initial hires are critical. I have personally found for laborers that the best laborers, if they're being hired from within the United States, what I mean by that is maybe they're not from another culture. It's a little more difficult to judge if they are. Within the United States, as a personal observation, never heard anybody say it, I like to hire guys that had dads that worked out in the field. Guys that working in the field as a spray tech or as an irrigator or a plumber or whatever, but had a father, and this is my own conclusion, had a father that was white collar, like say he was a banker or a doctor or a computer guy, and then they're out in the field. They didn't grow up seeing their dad getting his hands dirty and working really hard and being gone and working in the evening. They may not have seen some of that stuff. They didn't see the manual labor. And the guys that we hire that had fathers that did that stuff, that they watched all their childhood growing up, that their dad did that stuff, they believe that that's something they should be doing as well. But the guy that didn't bother going to high school or finishing or going to college or was partying too much in his early years and grew up in a family with a father that was white collar and never worked outside or just didn't do certain types of work, such as he was an office dwelling individual. And they saw their dad do that, and they ended up in a profession, maybe working outside or doing a trade differently than what their father did. They don't always seem to perform at the same level. Quality sometimes seems less. Their ability to be very highly productive seems to be less. So hopefully this makes sense. What I am saying to sum it up is I find that guys that had fathers that do something similar to them. So if you're hiring a guy to work outside, a guy that had a dad that worked outside, they tend to be much better. They saw it. They grew up around it. They believe in it. They didn't see their dad sitting in front of a desk every day and think, you know what, that's what I should be doing. It creates a different work ethic. It's not 100% true. It's just a personal observation. I think I'm onto something there. That's one little thing. Core. Are they great people? Are they good? Can you trust them? What kind of work ethic do they have? We hire people routinely and we'll still make a hiring mistake. We put them in the field. They don't perform. We measure them. We watch them. We train. They don't perform. We replace them. Period. You have to. Get rid of them fast. I've made too many mistakes where I've been in desperate situations and I've given guys second chances. All that happens is it leads to everybody else on your team that's great seeing that you give the loser a second chance all the time. And then they're like, well, why should I perform so hard? It poisons your entire operation. So you're going to make mistakes. You're going to miss the attributes. Get rid of them as quick as you can.